Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to make a Korilakkuma M&M cookie out of polymer clay. So to get the base color of the clay, I use a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow, and a tiny bit of pink. I mix the pink and yellow together until they're well blended, and then I mix it with the white and I just condition it until it's ready to be sculpted. So once the clay is really well conditioned between my fingers, I'm going to start actually molding it into the shape of the cookie. So I'm going to start by making kind of a round oval shape and then two little ears to go on the side of his head. When I figure out exactly where I want the ears positioned, then I'm going to put them in place, and then I'm going to use what's called the Sculpted Bacon Bond product. So it's kind of like bakeable clay, I guess, and it helps me attach like extra pieces onto the main piece, and it like really creates a strong bond when you bake it so that it doesn't fall off and break off later. And then I'm just going to go over with a little silicone tool so that I can blend the clay together and just give it a little bit of extra reinforcement here, attaching those two ears. Okay, and at this point I'm happy with how the cookie looks, so I'm going to take a little bit of like rubbing alcohol and some Q-tips, and I'm going to go over the cookie piece with my Q-tips soaked in the rubbing alcohol, and that just kind of helps take away any fingerprints that were left on there, any weird lines that were left from my silicone tool, and then any lint or any kind of like dust pieces that were on the cookie, and it just gives me a clean surface to work with. And then I'm going to take this toothbrush and I start adding a little bit of texture just to make it look more cookie-like, a little bit more realistic, like it's actually been baked. At this point, I'm pretty happy with the texturing that's on the cookie. It looks pretty well baked, I think. Throughout the tutorial, I might add a little bit more texturing just as I go. Now I'm going to use some chalk pastels, and I'm going to scrape a little bit off. I'm going to use a color that's a little bit darker than the shade of the actual cookie so that it looks like it's a darker edge around the edge of the cookie. I'm going to scrape it off the pastel and then use a little brush just to add that color around the edges. Pretty much the base of the cookie now. So I've got it looking like it's textured, it's got that brown baked edge along it. So I'm just gonna kind of, add a little bit more texture just as I go, like I said. And then I'm gonna start adding details. So I'm using a little bit of pink, like a blush pink that I mixed with some translucent clay. And I'm gonna make the little ears, just starting with details. At this point, I'm going to come in again with my rubbing alcohol and my Q-tip just to clear off my fingertips that were left on there and leave the ears looking smooth and clean. And taking a piece of white clay, I'm just going to condition it between my fingers and get the spot where the mouth goes ready. Coming in with my dotting tool now, I'm going to make the little spots for the eyes, and then I'm going to use some black clay for the eyeballs and then for the nose and the mouth. I'm happy with how the eyes look, but then this part took me like quite a long time to get the mouth just right. I took a little while figuring out exactly how thick I wanted to roll the black clay for the mouth, and then finding like the even sizes so that each side of the mouth is even and it looks nice. It was a little bit difficult, but as you see, I kind of take it off and move it around a little bit in the video, and it's okay to move things around, take things off, start over. It's all clay. You can roll it back up, you can clean it off with the alcohol, and you can just get it right however long it takes you. You can just try again. It took its time, but slow and steady wins the race, and I like the way that it finally came out. And then I'm just going to go over a little bit with the alcohol, clean it up a little bit just around the edges where I made a couple of my mistakes, and make it look nice and clean for the next part. Now I'm taking different colored clay, and I'm just getting them ready on the side here so you can see the colors that I'm going to choose. And these are going to be the little like M&M pieces that are going to be put into the cookie to make it look like an M&M cookie. So I get all kinds of different colors. I didn't end up using each of the balls that I rolled out here. I think I only used like 4 maybe of the colors that I picked. And I'm just getting them ready like into smaller pieces here so that I can put them on the cookie. With my dotting tool, I'm going to really gently mark out the places that I want those little M&Ms to go. I'm just going to press really, really lightly. There are a couple extra places that I put them later too. These are just like kind of a guideline. And now I'm going to take that same silicone tool and sort of blend the little balls of color into the cookie so that it looks like it's been sort of melted in a little bit during the process of baking. So now that I've got most of those M&Ms in there, I'm gonna go in with that original color that I started with the white, yellow, and pink, and I'm gonna put a little bit over top of the M&Ms, again to make it look like it's been mixed into the batter and then baked in and sort of melted into the cookie, just to add a little bit of realism to the cookie and the melted chocolate. So here I wasn't exactly happy with the M&Ms that I had on there, so I'm adding a little bit more. I add some yellow, some blue, I think one more red, just to kind of add some extra pops of color here and there. And I am blending it in with the creases of the cookie, and then again with the base color of the cookie to make it look like it's all baked together really nicely. As I'm touching and moving the cookie a lot, I do like to go in with that toothbrush to add a little bit of that extra texture, just to make it completely well-rounded and not so flat after I've been touching it with my fingertips. These are basically the finished M&Ms, just showing you a little bit of a close-up of how that looks with the original color over top of the M&Ms and how it's been baked. And then I'm going to add some more of that chalk pastel around the cookie and a little bit kind of on top of those M&Ms and the baked pieces, just to make it look like it's been baked a little bit more, adding some texture as I go, just basically some finishing touches. For the most part, this is the finished cookie. I'm pretty happy with the color on there, the texture on there, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little eye pin using my pliers so that I can turn this into a charm and then later into a keychain. I didn't realize I did this part off screen. I'm just adding a little bit of the Sculpey Bacon Bond to the eye pin where I put it in on the charm, just to add some extra reinforcement when it is a keychain so that it doesn't pop right out of the charm itself. And this is pretty much the finished project. So I'm going to pop it in the oven just according to the baking instructions. And then I'm going over it with some UV resin here. I'll fill you in on how I finished it later, but at first I started just by going over the M&Ms and the eyes and the face. And here I'm just curing the UV resin with my little UV flashlight. And that's pretty much the finished cookie. I have to admit, I did go over it again with a little bit more chalk pastel and then again with some UV resin because I didn't think that it was really dark enough. It looked a little bit too light to me, so I did touch it up a little bit off camera. And then I did turn it into a keychain afterwards, and this is what it looks like. So I put some of my favorite beads on a wire and I attached those onto a chain. And then I made a little pink bow just for the top of it there. I really like the way it turned out. I think it's pink and cute and adorable. I'm really happy with that finished product. Thanks for watching!